morning, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here, for coming to the airport on a day when you're not traveling. Minus Alison Saar, who did arrive by plane this morning. So I'd like to also warmly welcome our esteemed colleagues, collaborators, and partners from across the city, and extend a special welcome to the artist participating in today's panel. In particular, I want to recognize Alison Saar, an artist whose work doesn't just resonate, it generates. It creates the kind of ripple effects that shape conversations, open pathways, and make space for others to enter and expand the field. My name is Jennifer McCabe, and I'm director and chief curator here at SFO Museum. It's a privilege to lead an institution that brings art, history, and culture into the daily experience of millions of travelers. At SFO Museum, our mission is to engage and inspire a global audience through exhibitions and programs, and by preserving and sharing the history of commercial aviation. At its core, our work is about enriching the public experience of this airport. And that work is made stronger through our long-standing partnership with the San Francisco Arts Commission. Their public art program brings more than 165 works into the airport environment, reflecting the diversity and the creativity of the Bay Area, and connecting people to culture in unexpected ways. It's a real honor to collaborate in today's program and to welcome guest curator Ashara Ekundayo. I had the chance to meet Ashara in late 2024 while we were both in London. I was participating in an exhibition I co-curated called Feminisms. I've really spent my career supporting and uplifting artists, especially women in the arts, and today feels like a natural convergence of that work and those relationships. I'm proud to lead SFO Museum and to be part of our nearly 50-year collaboration with the Arts Commission, one that has helped shape this airport into a place that connects people, not just through travel, but through ideas, culture, and shared experience. And with that, it's my pleasure to introduce Ariane G. Davidian, who is Public Art Project Manager at the Arts Commission, who will offer some additional context for today's program.
Welcome, everyone. What a beautiful gathering we have today. Thank you for joining us. The San Francisco Arts Commission, an agency of the City and County of San Francisco, launched SFO's public art program in 1977 in accordance with the city's Percent for Art Ordinance, which provides for an art enrichment funding allocation equivalent to 2% of the construction cost of new or renovated civic structures. Today's conversation comes out of two such public art projects realized through arts enrichment funds provided by SFO, thank you, and tied to the construction of a secure connector corridor and new administrative building between Terminals 2 and 3, where the artworks are now on permanent display. In 2021, SFAC commissioned artist Alison Saar to create Flourish, a sculptural beacon that welcomes new travelers to San Francisco and serves as a reminder of our common immigrant roots, the riches that thrive from diversity, as well as from our collective experience. After the completion of Flourish, there was an opportunity to purchase additional artworks for the nearby corridor walls. SFAC convened a curatorial committee, including Alison Saar, Ashara Ekundayo, former Arts Commissioner Jean McCoy, SFO Museum Assistant Director of Exhibitions Kai Kammerer, and myself to provide recommendations for the purchase of available artworks. The selection criteria for these works were rooted in the project goals, which was to enrich the experience of the public corridor, to create conceptually, aesthetically, or in an art historical context, to relate conceptually, aesthetically, or in an art historical context to Alison Saar's sculpture, and to contribute to the quality and diversity of San Francisco's civic art collection in its representation of artists and artistic styles. And lastly, to provide our opportunity to artists with a meaningful connection to the San Francisco Bay and beyond. 11 artworks by 12 women and gender expansive artists of color were approved by the Arts Commission and Airport Commission in 2023. And after much anticipation, these artworks were installed within the public corridor last December. If you take a stroll over to the corridor after this program, you will see artwork by Adia Millett, Adama Delphine Fawundu, Erica Demon, Keisha Scarville, Sydney Kane, Yatunde Olagbaju, Olamadara Yaya, Trina Michelle Robinson, Eve Sandler, Tayer SANAA, which is Shanna Strauss and Jess Sabogal, and Myra Green. This grouping is now part of San Francisco's permanent civic art collection, which consists of over 4,000 artworks throughout San Francisco and the greater Bay Area, ranging in location from SFO to community centers, parks, fire stations, and more. The acquisition of these works into the Civic Art Collection is a small but significant milestone in SFAC's efforts to better represent the full range of artistic voices, both in the Bay Area and beyond, and to begin restoring balance in public memory and living legacies, and to invite ongoing learning, healing, and belonging. It is an honor to bring these artworks and the stories that they tell into the public view. A profound thank you to several people, including the artists, the curatorial committee, and everyone involved over the years, to Jennifer McCabe, director and chief curator at SFO Museum, Ralph Remington, director of cultural affairs. I see you out here somewhere, there he is. The arts commissioners, we have Chuck Collins here today. Thanks for coming, Chuck. And Mary Chu, director of the Civic Art Collection and Public Art Program, and my skilled and hardworking colleagues at the San Francisco Arts Commission and SFO Museum, and our interpreters, Naomi Monero and Kate Livingston. Thank you. So we are thrilled to welcome the panelists and moderator for today's program, if they can make their way up to their thrones. We have Alison Saar, who is a Los Angeles-based sculptor and mixed media artist whose work draws on African diasporic narratives. Diasporic narratives, mythology, and the material histories of Black life. Saar's sculptures are celebrated for their powerful embodiment of transformation, resilience, and ancestral memory. Saar's practice, informed by her lineage as the daughter of Betty Saar, continues to shape and challenge the landscape of contemporary feminist and diasporic art. Adia Millett. Her work investigates the fragile interconnectivity among all living things, weaving threads of African American experiences with the broader ideas of identity and collective history. Inspired by Afrofuturism, emotional resiliency, and the preservation of our land, her multidisciplinary practice includes painting, quilting, stained glass, collage, video, sculpture, and installation. Eve Sandler, who we have on the screen here. Eve, thank you. Eve is an interdisciplinary artist, designer, writer, performer, and activist. Her work explores Black culture, female archetypes, memory, and ritual, as well as queer identity and popular culture. Born in Harlem, Eve is the daughter of powerhouse arts worker Joan Dolores Sandler, and was thus raised within several overlapping artist circles. In the 1990s, Eve was part of the entitled Black Women's Artist Group, along with Carol Bayard, Nanette Carter, and Howardina Pindell. She was an artist in residence at the Studio Museum in Harlem in 1991, and in 1999, she founded the New York collective Women in Mourning and Outrage. Tayer SANAA, Shanna, Strauss, and Jess Sabogal are multidisciplinary visual artists and life partners. They are best known for their portraits on large-scale wooden assemblages, wall installations, and works on paper, centering the sacredness of queer, trans, migrant, Black, gender, expansive, Indigenous people, and women of color. They collaborate, combining a wide range of artistic disciplines from muralism, photography, and photo transfer to spray paint and stencils to a myriad of printmaking techniques. Both draw influence from contemporary social movements that use artistic expression as a critical form of resistance against forces that risk their erasure. Together, they create a visual language that engages viewers in conversations and questions around the necessity and futures of Indigenous healing, storytelling, and activism. And last but not least, we have Ashara Ekundayo. Ashara is a translocal Black feminist, cultural worker, independent curator, public archivist, and creative industries entrepreneur based in Oakland, California, and Detroit, Michigan. Her interdisciplinary practice explores the intersections of art, ecology, and justice, centering the expertise and labor of Black women and gender-expansive storytellers. Ekundayo is a former gallerist at Ashara Ekundayo Gallery and Omi Arts, and the founder and current executive creative director of the collective platform Artist as First Responder. Also, in the tradition of critical artistic action and dynamic imagination, she utilizes artist-based strategies such as photography, screen printing, zine making, installation, and altar making. Ashara is presently amplifying her long-standing relationships with international partners from South Africa to Brazil and New Orleans to London to pilot a new archival projection site linking creative hubs across the Black Atlantic and the African diaspora. And with that, I am delighted to hand the floor over to Ashara and the panelists.
What time is it? Good morning? Good afternoon? Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Here we are, yes, arriving here at the San Francisco International Airport. What a journey. I have never been in this room before, never noticed it before, didn't know it existed until a couple of weeks ago, and had the, circuitous journey to finding it. So thank you for arriving, for taking your time to be here this morning with us. My name is Ashara Ekundayo. I am a cultural worker, an independent curator, a grandmother, a daughter of Alice Washington and Hermone Futrell. I stand here and sit here with my ancestors and show up as she, her, and we, because I do not come alone. I come with all of my people and all of my people's people and all of the others that are not people. And we all come with that. And one of the first feelings when I first witnessed Alison Saar's piece, it was so fascinating to find out that this artwork was in the airport and it was before security. I literally never come through that end of the airport. And I got off of a flight once and decided I'm gonna walk through the other side of the terminal and just see if I can find this piece of artwork, and proceeded to just walk and walk and walk. If you've ever been in this airport and noticed, it is a magnificent museum. It has it's so well curated. No one knew where this sculpture was. No one knew. I was like, it looks like this. It says it's here. They're like, and I was like, huh. I was like, okay. And then I found it right before you walk out the door. And the first thing I thought is, we do not arrive here alone. We do not arrive here empty-handed. We do not arrive here empty. We arrive here full, pregnant with possibility, regardless of how we got here. And I want to thank you, Alison, for always bringing that possibility and always representing what I relate to as Black woman, Black femme brilliance, and our relationship to the divine feminine, to the creative divine feminine. Thank you for that work. So, informed by Jessica Dallow's essay, Reclaiming Histories, Betty and Alison Saar, Feminism and Representation of Black Womanhood, this roundtable discussion will explore how Black feminist artists continue to expand the field of visual culture through reclamation, revision, and resistance. I want to root today's conversation by reading the opening paragraph of the essay I penned for this installation, and then move into questions and reflections with our panelists based on the 5 recurring themes in the artwork, which are on the third space transition, the architecture of the crown, the body as living archive, materiality and organic memory, and patterns of reclamation and resilience. I also want to acknowledge that there are 2 artists that are part of the artwork that are in the audience, but just not on the panel. One is Olumidara Yaya, sitting here in the front. And then Trina Michelle Robinson, who is also here in the audience. And then I also want to acknowledge my friend and mentor, Lava Thomas, also here in this space. Rerooted, a womanist cartography of Alison Saar's Flourish. Upon entry to the corridor that connects Terminal 2 and 3 at San Francisco International Airport, we find ourselves in a quintessential third space, a site of transition, a threshold of the unfixed between now and next. It is here that Alison Saar's Flourish sits as a still sentinel, keeping watch and inviting the traveler to observe and imagine, even if only for a rushed minute, our personal and collective histories of movement. Saar's figure, a Black girl with braided up hair forming a botanical cosmos of roots, branches, and flowers, provides a spiritual and theoretical groundwork for an expanded conversation. This foundation invites a chorus of 12 women-identified and gender-expansive artists of color to illuminate the multifaceted experiences of migration, memory, and becoming. I want to give a short definition for 2 terms. One is rerooted, meaning to establish new roots, replant or establish a firm foundation in a new location, often to improve growth, often. And then the word womanist, which was penned by Black queer feminist award-winning author Alice Walker, to define Black feminist or feminist of color who are committed to survival and wholeness of an entire people, male and female, in her 1983 essay collected in the collection In Search of Our Mother's Gardens, Womanist Prose. And I bring that up as part of an expanded, I think, introduction, the importance of Black feminist thought and praxis is connected to the Combahee River Collective and their 50th anniversary of this statement that was penned in April, 50 years ago. So coming up this next year, we have a series of conversations and activations that are connected to and rooted in Black feminist thought and the belief and understanding that the freedom of Black women facilitates the freedom of everyone else. And so this panel discussion and this conversation with these artists is a nod to that, is an understanding of that. I want to invite each of you to have just a bit of an opening statement. your thoughts on your work as it relates to Flourish and what that means in terms of how you represent yourself, your identity, your gender pronouns, if you want to share those, and how that unfolds with this notion of flourishing. Alison, can we start with you?
Yeah, Alison Saar, she, her. And then, yeah, I guess when I was invited to create Flourish, I really was thinking about, who.
Can you hold your mic?
Oh, okay. About, who all come and how we come. And you had mentioned becoming, but I also feel that belonging is kind of part of that and how we kind of create a space for ourselves, whether that's a physical space or a space through community or whatnot. And I think actually the trunks were inspired by an image of the storage of the Japanese American citizens of San Francisco, where all of their stuff had just been taken and put into internment. And just to see this room filled with all these suitcases and what belonged in that, or what was in those suitcases, and their lives, how it had been changed by being sent to these basically prisons, and just what we carry, and thinking about what they continue to carry beyond those objects and belongings was this just their histories and their memories and their sense of whatnot, and who do we become when all of that is stripped away from us. And so I really wanted, and then also when we started that, we were just coming into this horrific wave of an attack on immigrants and undocumented here in the United States, and really wanted to talk about how how much all these people sacrifice to come here and be here and belong here, and what they bring here. And so this kind of sapling that comes out that is a cherry blossom, actually, and how that reflects on again, going back to the rich horticulture that was brought by the Japanese Americans here. But everyone, whether you're coming from the Great Northern Migration, however you got to this place, and then this place being symbolic of all the places where we've gone and come and arrived and made our own and enriched in our experience. So that was my thinking of Flourish.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. I want to invite Eve Sandler, who is joining us via Zoom from New York City. Good afternoon, Eve. How are you?
Good afternoon. It's such a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much. And Alison, your sculpture is very inspirational for me. I just was thinking so much of, how did we get here and what did we bring with us? What do we carry memory-wise? And for me, working in multiple mediums, I felt a strong connection between Flourish and my work with hair, which is a body of work that I guess I began in about 1990, very early 1990s, when I relocated my studio to Newark in search of more space, and there wasn't a single art supply store. But there were a lot of beauty supply stores, and hair was very abundantly available. And so often my freight elevator would break, and I found myself lugging big, heavy gallons of acrylic medium for my paintings. And hair suddenly felt very freeing to work with. It suddenly was really a really good idea. And over the years, I've continued to revisit this series, but I felt a connection with the blackness of the hair that I use so often. And the traditions of hair, the constructions of femme identity through the use of hair, the extending the body through the use of hair and false fingernails. I was always amazed at the young women who worked at my local store who had enormously long fingernails and how they were able to press the keys. So all of these things sort of had entered into that work, and I thought somehow that I wanted to connect this series to Alison's Flourish.
Thank you, Eve. We're going to come back to that extension of the body.
Yeah,
For sure.
The Africanism, the performance, the
Absolutely. Absolutely.
masquerade.
Adia.
Hi, everyone. My name's Adia Millett. Okay, there's so many parts to this. I want to just first, Ashara, acknowledge that when you speak, it's like we're receiving jewels. It feels so rich with wisdom, and it's such an opportunity for us to hear your wisdom. So thank you. Okay, so connection to Alison's incredible work. I think when I think of where it's at, I think of Portal, that it's this transition space. And I think of all of us as being these travelers throughout that space. And we are given this opportunity to enter this timeless portal that you have gifted us with. And I think artists have this ability to create this almost, this moment in time where we realize that our concepts of reality may not be the truth. And for me, a portal acts as that. It's this moment where we look at something that's abstract, we look at something that stops time. I think jazz does it. I think there's moments when we fall in love. There's moments when we hear Aretha Franklin singing gospel and everything opens up, and creativity, imagination, a whole new realm of how we can see reality shifts. And that's what I think really beautiful art is able to do. I think that's what Alison's art does. I think that's what some language can do. And so that is where I think a lot of our offerings can come from. And that's what I hope that my work can do, and I hope that that people are able to access for themselves, that they can look into it. So the piece that I have in this is titled Integrity, but in parentheses, Portal. And so it's just an opportunity for a transition, an entrance point.
Thank you.
Wow. I also want to echo what Adia said, Ashara, about your wisdom, and just extend my gratitude to everybody here today. It really means a lot to be here. It's a huge, huge honor. Yeah, so much to unpack and so many layers to the question. But what comes up for me, I'm thinking about our work, the work that was selected for, among all the pieces. Our work is about, at its heart, I would say our work is about how we can bring our full selves wherever we go. So it's what we bring with us. And the piece is in Spanish, translated to Serpent of the Stars. And the person that we're depicting is a queer nurse who also practices traditional medicine. And she's a friend of ours, and when we were speaking with her, she talked a lot to us about how those two different medicines or forms of healing often don't, they're often kind of, the different spaces don't often accept one another. And so she is really trying to find a way where she can bring those practices to the different spaces that she works in. Constantly, and then her name, the Serpent of the Stars, was given to her by her indigenous elders and teachers, and for her, her work is to be expansive and grounded at the same time. And she says that it's a struggle often to be her full self always, but that's her work. That's her work. Yeah, I don't know if you want to add to that.
Yeah, just that, Shanna said that beautifully. We collaborated on a piece that was chosen. My name is Jess. Everybody, thanks for being here. Yeah, I just want to add to that I think Alison's piece also acknowledges like the struggle to show up to a new place, and there's also pain in that, right? It's like my parents came from Colombia 30 years ago with cash in their pocket, and they showed up because they had sent a telegram to the Motel 6, like, we're coming. So when they got there, they're like, oh, those are the Colombians that sent a telegram, to the Motel 6. And they went to McDonald's, So yeah, all this is to say is I love that it holds both kind of the pain and the heartbreak of leaving a homeland while also acknowledging like the promise of the future for yourself and your family. Yeah, and I think bringing that back to our piece, like our friend Karen is holding this snake that Shanna designed. And in that snake also comes Tanzanian motifs from where Shanna's from, Colombian motifs where my family's from. And that was really to show like our liberation is bound in each other's, this story that we exchange with Karen, who we interviewed. If Karen is free, but we're not free, are we really free? If my folks are free, but her folks are not free, are we really free? If Shanna's folks are free, but we're not able to like be in love in front of our folks, like, are we all free? So I think that speaks also to the nature of our practice and who we are. We're always like searching for and speaking about liberation for all peoples and not just like that of our own identities. Which, yeah.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for all of those reflections and the thoughts that are surfacing for me are really connected to this reclamation, not only of identities but of space, and what that means to demand and insist that we be able to show up as our whole selves. I'm thinking about how it looks like thinking about how the materials that you all choose are also connected to a reclamation of stories and insistence that we not be erased, and that we utilize and acknowledge our kind of like trading and sharing of those stories, of those histories, because as you mentioned, some of us show up in an airport or any other location by choice, by force, or by spiritual calling of some sort, So I guess I want to wait till Eve gets back to ask this question about materiality. But I think I want to start with Adia. The works, as you said, operate as portals, a series of portals, a series of opportunities to step from one dimension into the next dimension. And I think each of you can speak about this, but in general, how do they work? How do they play a role in your creative process? Are you time traveling? Are you listening to something in particular that is allowing you to see differently? And I kind of in the back of my head, I have like thoughts of my friends who would take mushrooms and then paint, because they wanted to open that aspect of their brain to see through a different dimension. So I think this is maybe a way for us to ease into this question, because I think we are all offering a portal interaction here through our work.
I don't think I could take mushrooms and paint at the same time, but if I could, it would be messy. I'm kind of a control freak about my lines. But I do feel that everything is a conversation, either with the earth, with our ancestors, with other artists. And so for me, I see that to be a process. And it can even
Recording in progress.
It could even be a conversation with how we understand something like gender or anything for that matter. So when I'm thinking about making a piece, what's the conversation, and what opening for, in this case, when we're speaking about portals, are we creating access to? So oftentimes it will be inspired by an artist. It will be inspired. I'll have moments like right now I'm going through this thing where Alice Coltrane won't leave me alone. Everywhere I look.
She's haunting you.
Yep. And she's saying, hey, it's my turn. And so then that starts to come through in the creativity and in the conversations and in the way that I show up and love and the way I show up and listen. And I think that that's the beauty of connecting with other creatives, writers. And to me, that's where where oftentimes collaborations begin. And we use history, we use our family lineage to develop those conversations. So oftentimes, like right now, I'm also using I've acquired these quilts from the 1800s. And now these unknown artists have these pieces that are torn and stained, and we get to kind of go back and have a conversation with someone whose voice, it may not seem like it's being seen or heard, but we get to re-enter that conversation. It's all about conversations.
It's all about conversations. Jess and Shanna, I'm also thinking about the world making and the creative refusal through the work that you do, not only in the story that we see in this installation, but the work that you do as printmakers. And I'm also wanting to have you include kind of like the physical embodied movement of the printmaking work that you do. I also know, Alison as a printmaker as well. And so I'd like to have a little bit of dialogue between the three of you in regards to the history and impact and importance of women and femmes in print, and also the way in which we can transform spaces of forced removal, into places of geographic permanence for ourselves, and the impact that printmaking has had on those stories.
Go for it.
Well, I think one of the reasons why I'm really attracted to printmaking, and I think part of it is very primal because I was a toddler when my mother was at Long Beach doing her printmaking. So, it's one of those things, where you smell a certain smell and it takes you back to a place. The smell of asphaltum and jasmine combined. I become 3 years old again underneath presses and stuff like that. But it just really became apparent to me, in terms of that long history of printmaking as getting the word out there and being accessible to everyone. And I think it's also really been wonderful tying in and being able to collaborate with poets as well. And that, early on, they would do broadsides. You couldn't afford to have a whole book of poetry, but you could get a page of poetry out there. And I just love the immediacy of getting it out there and having lots of them out there. And so I think that's, as a portal in terms of just making fine art accessible on a lot of levels is what's really appealing to me. And then also is something that I could make in my kitchen, with I had wood, whether it came out of the chiffero we busted up or something, and something to carve it with, which is how we met working on the piece at CCA. But just the immediacy of it and how you don't need a lot of things to make it happen too, that it's really easily accessible to make as a maker and as a receiver. So.
I think the thing that comes up for me is the generous spirit of printmaking studios. I find printmakers to be very, very generous with their knowledge and skills. And often, even though you're working on your own, you might be working on your own work. When you face any kind of obstacles or challenges, other people are often there and willing to help you work through whatever challenges you might be facing. And so it's also a space of continual learning and growing. And I feel like as printmakers, we have to embrace failure in a way that I have found working in other mediums is not quite the same. Like, we fail all the time in printmaking, and we have to kind of dig deep and come back to it to kind of work things out. And I think printmakers are really resilient in that way. You want to add anything?
Yeah, I come from the tradition that Alison was talking about of getting the word out, so I came from kind of a political education where it was like, okay, there's a rally tonight, or we're protesting the war or whatever, and we're pulling a print and we're giving out 1,000 in the street. And then, as I grew older and became more established in my practice, I started to notice like, oh, there's this weird hierarchy with printmaking, and there's something called fine art prints versus like the street art prints. And so as Shanna and I, got more into the printmaking world, we were on the screen printing side and noticing like, oh, there's these big fancy presses with these wheels. What are you guys doing? And we'd poke over there, and as Shanna's saying, everyone's so generous and would like share, oh, this is etching, this is how you put a photo on a plate, this is how you use this very fancy glue to like put things together. And so I think now, often the spaces that we're in, Shanna's always the only Black woman in there, and I'm always the only queer person, the child of immigrants in there. And so we're often now trying to like bring in other folks, and I think also us being there, people feel safe. Other artists now are like coming to like print and do things like that. What was I gonna say? And so our practice is a lot about, there's all these like rules in printmaking, like this paper can't go with this paper, or this glue can't go with this glue, and the white masters will be upset if you mix these two processes, like screen printing doesn't go with lithography, what is that? And me and Shanna, I think because now we know the rules, we're breaking them all the time, and that's really amazing and exciting, because I think also in print it could be a lot of like landscapes and like leaves and things like that, and that's great, but we're here to like bring our people and our ancestors into the work as well. And I think that's why like the work that we produce is I'm really proud of. Yeah.
Thank you for that. I wanna talk some more about, I guess, the legacy of protest and getting the word out, and also the piece around abundance and there being a lot of it, the ability to produce a lot of something for not a lot of money, necessarily. But I want to bring in this legacy and being kind of like raised up as someone who is invited to use their voice, to use their art practice, to extend their voice. And that definitely, brings me to what I know about Eve Sandler and her family, the legacy of organizing and movement building in her family. And Eve, if you could, talk a little bit about growing up with artists, as an artist, and as an organizer. And in particular, there's one of the images that's on the slide is a photo of you as a child at an anti-Vietnam War rally, with a flyer in your hand. So you could talk about the legacy of that. Yeah.
I just, I'd love to talk about that. I just wanted to mention that I am also a printmaker. My father was an artist and was a very, very good printmaker. And just to mention Bob Blackburn's workshop, where I was blessed to be able to work with so many incredible printmakers. And just to mention that, there is something about printmaking that's super fantastic. And also you can improvise with printmaking, even though it's sometimes technical. And I just wanted to mention Bob Blackburn's name because
yes, thank you.
It was a haven for me, and so it has been for so many artists. Yeah, I grew up in an activist family, and my parents were very involved in the peace movement. That little picture of me holding "Peace Please" sign, that was actually the poster, made into the poster for the mobilization to end the Vietnam War. So my mom was always taking us, my sister and I, on demonstrations and protests, and my godmothers, Louise Merriweather, Rosa Gee, writers, fantastic Black women writers that were very important in my development. Blessed to grow up in a circle of formidable, idealistic women who were willing to put everything on the line to protest and to make progress in this country. So it's a very dismal time that we're in right now, but I still believe that we can make a difference. Okay, so, you know, that's part of, I guess, our role as artists, that everything we create is a form of resistance just by virtue of it being coming from us. And yeah, I think it's just requires a special spirit to continue to work when things can look as bleak as they do. Ashara, prod me to the rest of the question.
Well, I was actually asking you to speak about, you know, the legacy of growing up in a family of artists and activists, and I wanted you to talk a little bit about Women in Mourning and Outrage as well, and the artwork that came from that, but also I want to, you know, lead into the materiality of your practice and the connection between, I want to say, rage and joy and material.
Yeah. So, Women in Mourning and Outrage, I mean, I've been involved with many different groups that we organized around different things that we wanted to demonstrate about. But Women in Mourning and Outrage really became a form of protest that was sort of ritualized performance protest, and it involved many, many, many women. Primarily it was Black women. When we put out the call, it wasn't because there was just so much outrage when the police officers who had murdered Amadou Diallo were acquitted and didn't have to pay for their crimes. So many of us were outraged. And that's really when Women in Mourning and Outrage was officially formed. And I just remember going and buying a bolted black chiffon and calling all the artists that I knew, and Louise, one of my godmothers, calling all the writers that she knew because she was part of OWA.
Was that Louise Merriweather?
Louise Merriweather.
The poet, yeah.
A very important author of Daddy Was a Numbers Runner, one of my favorite books, which is still in print. And so between the visual artists and the writers, we gathered and just started forming these sacred circles and having these silent vigils, which were really real-time rituals happening on the street. And we formed these circles in many, many, many places, including we went to Washington and formed them. And they were effective. They were powerful for us who were in the circle. And they did attract a certain amount of media attention. But I think we all needed real ritual to kind of work through our anger, our hurt, and we did create a presence. So that was, I also was involved with African Americans Against Violence, in creating a candlelight vigil march in opposition to when Mike Tyson was released from prison. Al Sharpton wanted to give him a welcome home parade through Harlem, like, welcome home, our hero. And was released from prison after, for raping a black woman. And we were like, that ain't happening. So we organized a counter move, and that was pretty effective. I think it's just been natural, having grown up in an activist family, it's okay to get out on the street and take some action. And at the same time, with Women Mourning and Outrage, it is sort of an extension of the kind of performance that has been part of my actual work, sometimes in the museum. Anyways.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. I know it might seem a bit odd for us to listen to kind of like the legacy and the history of visual and performing artists speak about the act, the actual embodied motion and movement of using your body as that, and it being part of your art practice. But we are in this time right now where artists and performers and poets and writers are being attacked, are being murdered on purpose. It is a very dangerous time to be an artist, and author Toni Morrison told us that many years ago. It's a very dangerous position to hold in society. I want to just pull the thread a little bit more on materiality around it, and how each of you could speak to why and how you pick the materials for your work, whether they be seeds or textiles or paint, or perhaps there is sound that is also part of it. And to speak about kind of the ecology of belonging that you spoke to, Alison, like when physical land or life or community or identity is being stripped away or redefined, or you're being displaced, how the materiality comes into play.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think, the curious thing about Flourish and being bronze is it's so far off of my normal practice, which is, using, and actually those are found trunks, which were really beautiful, and I love that somebody's stuff, those trunks took people's lives lots of places. But yeah, I think for myself, I think initially it came out of just not having the funds to buy like paper and paint and stuff like that, and was just starting, when we were really young, we would just like pick up stuff off of the street. And then, of course, when I moved to more interesting streets in Brooklyn, that was just like tons of amazing art stuff waiting to be taken home and brought into the studio and created. But, this idea, and I think it maybe initially really got going when I was at the Studio Museum in Harlem, and it was in the 80s when a lot of those places were still just burned out buildings, and people just, throw stuff out the window, and finding ceiling tin that, had been in Harlem since the turn of the century, and to recognize how they saw that entire history pass underneath it, and what each layer of paint represented, another family, or maybe another decade, because they wouldn't be painting it every time, but, and how that, an accumulation of like fried fish grease underneath it from fish flies to for rent parties, and just that it had this sort of history and its grime and its layers and its tears. And I think, having first come to New York and, coming from California and Laurel Canyon, and coming into this just really vibrant environment, still being very young and very unexperienced, it really was like a gift to kind of like take all of that weight and all of that love and all of that sorrow in this physical material, and to be able to kind of craft it into something that could still embrace that history. So I think that became really important. And I also wanted to say that Bob Blackburn was one of the first people to reach out to me in New York, invited me to come into the studio, introduced me to so many artists. So yeah, I shade Bob Blackburn.
Yes. Adia, did you want to say something about the materiality? Because you have this again, multifaceted
So
practice. Yeah, so many things.
It's making me feel like this is a rites of passage because I came from California, went to New York, was at the Studio Museum, and collected a bunch of stuff right off the street and had a whole installation. So maybe this is just part of a journey, a Black woman's journey.
Okay.
But based on my education, I think I really got interested in this bad word, craft, because it seemed at that point in the 90s to be kind of outside of contemporary art. And for me, it became this metaphor for identity. It became this stand-in for what represents me. Painting at that time didn't feel like it did. And so how do I bring the craft into the museum space? How do I, allow it to no longer be, how do I put it on the pedestal? And how do I kind of also start to think about how we can deconstruct our understanding of identity and expand it, for that matter. And so for me, material often has that ability to do that. So with textiles, the history and the layers that are in those fabrics can represent so much depending on your perspective and your history and your damage. And what happens when we take that and we reclaim it and we tear it apart and we sew it back together and we create something else. So it becomes this literal representation of who we were and who we're becoming. And there's something about all the fact that it's not one piece, it's a collection of pieces, a collection of stories, and can be this almost like an orchestra. And then I become more of a composer than I do even an artist. I'm trying to add to a story.
Jess and Shanna, in your talking about materiality, could you also talk about your collaboration and your process for that? Is it different when you're doing a small work versus a very large work? I'm just wondering if you could, the materiality is different.
I had my own individual practice, and Jess had their own individual practice before we came together to collaborate. And I think we bring the different materials that we work with, the different ways in which we work together in our collaboration in what I feel is a pretty incredible way. It's really developed my practice. So I came from a mixed media, primarily working with found wood that I would make into these large, almost collage-like assembled canvases in which I would then incorporate different types of medium. I would use photo transfer, collage techniques, fabric. And so in our joint practice, it is now turned into where Jess will bring their stencil and spray paint and other modes of working into that way of working that I think has been pretty incredible. In addition to, we also do murals together. We also do printmaking, where, each of us kind of come with a different way of working, different background. So I'm primarily a relief printmaker, and Jess is, I would say, primarily a screen printer. And then we have grown together in intaglio and lithography and have learned so much as we've collaborated together. Yeah, I don't know if you want to say anything.
Yeah, just a lot of people tell us, like, how do you all do this? If I had to work with my wife or husband, we'd kill each other. So, yeah, I don't know. It's such a privilege to work alongside and learn from Shanna. I think collaboration in general is just all about checking your ego at the door. I know what my strengths are, and Shanna knows what her strengths are. And so when it's time, when I'm like stuck, it's like, okay, now this piece of paper that we've been working on for 6 months needs to go to Shanna, and she needs to work her magic. And then when she's done, it comes back to me, and it's like this dance and choreography that, enables the piece to become what it wants to become.
And so, as we're going to be wrapping up this conversation really soon, but Eve and Alison, I want to not miss the opportunity to talk with you both about hair. Black hair, curly hair, nappy hair, straight hair, braided hair, steel, braided, bronze hair, all of that. And I see it as kind of like this site of radical growth and this ancestral coding that both of you are utilizing here. So how does the sculpting of it allow you to map out Black feminine history and otherwise possibilities that resist erasure? You both use hair, and in very wild and beautiful ways.
Yeah. Do you want to take the lead on that one?
Eve, go ahead and respond to the hair.
Well, again, I began the hair series, which is, the series is called High Maintenance, when I moved to Newark. And I started working with beauty supplies. It's a complex material to work with because it comes preloaded with, with issues, all of our issues about hair, historically or historically, how we use hair to perform femme identity, and the Africanisms and the phenomenal creativity that Black women do bring to hair. I think I have a slide, and I remember, with this series, hair to there, where the hair would be cascading from the ceiling onto the floor with the fingernail rosettes, because hair can sometimes be hilarious. But it's a very loaded material and subject for many, many of us. And so, it's sort of like playing with that as a subject and as a material. But sometimes you have to tread lightly and understand it's very, very loaded. And at the same time, I feel like, it begs the question sometimes, how long is too long? Like, how much hair do we need to feel good about ourselves? You know what I mean?
That's a great question, because as I'm traveling, I'm just watching the braids get longer and longer and longer on Black girls' hair. It's like, are we really have braids in all of the colors all the way down to our ankles now? And but you mentioned something earlier around the extension of the body, the expanding and the widening of yourself.
The nails, the extended nails, this is all part of performing the femme for many women. The extended nails, the extended hair. And I think that, without a doubt, there's just a lot of women who feel empowered by these extensions, but I think a lot about Africanisms and performance and masking and these traditions that I feel are sort of alive in our hair culture. So even when I do question how long is too long, but it's like, there's this video of Beyonce and the hair is down to her ankles. And I'm like, what are we promoting here? Really, I love you, but what are we promoting? All of us are so beautiful in our individuality and exactly as we are. We don't, but on the other hand, as I remember a woman saying, well, it's my hair, I paid for it, it's mine, So
Exactly,
this is my,
exactly.
So whatever, and how that translates into these very creative art forms, so many women are walking around as living art forms. So, I have a certain, caution and respect and love and all of that going on with this kind of tough material. It's a little more difficult than it may seem. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Eve, can you just speak briefly about your piece in this installation, Cornucopia, and the particular texture of hair you chose and the okra pod, the significance of that, just briefly?
Yeah. This piece kind of speaks to what did we bring with us, which was, I think, a question that Alison's mentioned. And we actually literally brought okra seeds in our hair from Africa to America. So cornucopia is sort of, the okra pods, we literally brought those seeds here. So that's part of our history.
Thank you.
Oh, I love that we not only share an obsession over hair, but we share an obsession with puns and wordplay and lots of ways to put hair into our titles and things as well as our work. I mean, I really came about it just because, being very, very fair-skinned and looking white, that was my hair that I really felt like I was able to connect with my mother's family. It was kind of like the only thing that gave evidence of something other. And, also just those really early memories of, the time spent with my mother's family in the kitchen. They indulged me and, would hot comb my hair even though I didn't necessarily need it. But just to be able to sit in there and be with my cousins and be silly, or going with my mother to hair salons and hearing all the tea from all these ladies talking all this trash about everyone, and just how rich it was on so many levels. And so every time I do pieces, a body of work that was relating to hair, and I think initially a lot of it was about straightening and processing, then it turned into this realm of about connecting and bonding and tying together. Then it comes back to processing when we learned that, hair straightening products were causing high amounts of uterine cancer in Black women, and how we had to cut all that shit off and to free ourselves from these ideas that we needed to somehow conform to, Ebony Jet's version of what it was to be a Black woman, was to have your hair totally processed and kind of fit into that. So, I just keep coming back to it, and I think it also is, it also has become this sort of thread for me to connect with my ancestor. I know that when my son was born, my grandmother had already died, and the first thing I did was have a dream of me braiding my grandmother's hair, which was something I'd never done. She never let me touch her hair, but it was a chance, and I was braiding her hair, and I said, I want you to meet my son. And so, it's obviously emotional, but it really is, it allows me to kind of reach back and communicate and have conversations with, my family and my ancestors on so many levels. So, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you all. So as we're going to close out our time here on the panel, I want to thank you, each of you, for your saying yes, your considerations, our understanding that each of the works that are part of this permanent collection now, part of this conversation, are, what do I want to say? They're meditations on flourishing, in various ways. And the importance at this particular portal, this portal of space in between where people are coming from into the city of San Francisco and the Bay Area in general, to have representations and actual stories from Black women and femme artists, gender expansive artists in this airport is important, because it was not here before. It was not here before. So I just want to give each of you an opportunity to have a closing statement on what is bringing you joy or what is enraging you right now. I know that might be, you might have a few things to say about that, but because it is our time to speak. Some of us know that we were built, designed, and came into our bodies for this time, to do this work at this time. What is either bringing you absolute bliss, or what are you freaking mad about? I'm mad about so much. I can't, but I am happy to be here with you all today. Eve, you want to go first? Eve, start us off with, what are you feeling?
Like you, I'm so angry about so much that I really don't know where to begin. But I would say that I am so happy and grateful to be part of this discussion with you wonderful women artists, that this is refreshing for me. It's affirming for me. I thank you, Ashara, for putting this together, and each one of you for your words and the sense of community I feel just being here, speaking with you. And I just have to say, for all of us, we will continue, we will persevere, and we will get through this crap that we're in right now. We will. But it requires just steady resistance, and we all have to contribute to. It's just, yeah. Thank you all for the richness of your words. I really appreciate it. It's food for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Jess?
Sure. I just feel immense gratitude for you and for seeing us. I think being a part of SFO has always been a personal dream of mine, and it doesn't matter if we make the work if people like you don't see us and put in work to have us in these spaces. So thank you, really, thank you. What's enraging me? God, Palestine, Iran, the state of what's happening to trans people, getting their IDs taken away. Every time I check the news, something is absolutely terrifying. And it feels very dystopian to just get in my car and go to school every day and act like, oh, there's a war happening, but I just gotta like turn to my homework, you know? So yeah, I feel enraged about those things, yeah.
Ooh, yeah, I think I'll just focus on the joy part. Yeah, same. I feel so much gratitude to have our work live here. Jess and I have been collaborating for 9 years, and something that we've noticed is that in many art spaces, in many art organizations, individual artists are prioritized, or really kind of the ones that are often given opportunities, gifted opportunities, but collaborations, it's a lot more difficult. And so I think it's just a huge honor that our collaboration is a part of this collection, and that, as Jess said, our work is being seen as and valued. So thank you so much. Yeah.
Okay, 2 things. We gotta expand the portal. It can't just be in the hallway. It needs to be in the whole airport and in the whole world. So if you're a supporter of art, support more Black women artists, please, please. And the second is kind of connected to that, and that's the joy. Back in 2019, your mom was being honored. I think it was like ICALA or something. Oh yeah. And I asked my friend Charles Gaines if he could get me to be at this, because I wanted to witness. And I got sat, not with him, but in the back near the bathroom and the caterers, and I was just sitting there watching, and I said, because it was your mom, I said, I thought to myself, I see myself in her. I see my future. And I thought, at some point when I'm up there, I'm going to make all the Black women in the audience stand up and say, this is you. So my joy is simply Black women and how you continue to inspire me every day.
What is there left to say? You guys have said it all. So beautiful and so just really heartwarming. I think, you know, again, what is there? There's so much to be angry about. And, you know, I think every time I do a show and it's another facet of rage and anger and that is exhausting. You know, I think we're really finding ourselves just like, I cannot come out and talk about this stuff now. And so, you know, what I've started to do is like have a show about all the things that pisses me off that I think are really important to be talked about, but always have like a corner or an exit from that rage and try to create a piece that really reminds us of why we, we love and we honor and how we celebrate each other. And so I guess the last show I did was the show that was in Paris, and it was talking about, sugar and talking about the history of this sweetness, right? It's kind of like the bittersweet history of sugar. And I'm not sure how Paris took that. They were like, well, wait a minute, But, we're all, so many countries are complicit in all of that. But, at the end of the show, I had to say, I got to talk about some of the joy and some of the beauty. And, enslaved bodies that were brought to the Americas really created a wonderful, amazing culture here. And, whether that could have existed without slavery or what, but that there's these amazing things that come out of horrific times. And I just have to remind myself that this too may change and become, I wouldn't say become something beautiful, but something rich and something more powerful. And so that's the only way I can kind of get through the morning news.
Thank you all. Thank you for your time and your inspiration for your work. So we have time for one or two questions or reflections. Let's say one or two. Does someone actually have a question? A question, yes. And is there one more? Yeah? Okay, thanks. Please stand up and say your name and where you have traveled from to be here.
Hi, my name is Cantrese Ogletree. I work here, so I didn't travel far. But I was working from home today, and I just knew I had to come here and see this. And it's just such a blessing to be able to hear from each one of you. I came in late, but I'm so glad that I made it. And my question is for you, for young up-and-coming artists. I have a daughter who's a writer. I have a nephew who's in cinematography and a photographer who just fell in love with it. But they're finding it's just such a difficult time to be able to break into the space and just really being able to find people to collaborate with. So my question to you is, how does a young up-and-coming artist, where can they find that same sense of community that you were able to find? One, and then what are avenues that they can take really to begin this journey that they're so looking forward to having, but haven't encountered closed doors?
I guess I'm stuck on. I think just by showing up to things, right? I mean, going out there, supporting other artists and meeting other artists. I think San Francisco is so rich, and that's why I wanted to hand this over, because the Bay Area is just so rich on so many opportunities of artist communities that are just ready to have more people be part of that. So I don't know if you all want to hand out something specific, but I think it's just there for, once you set your mind to go out and pursue it. And I think, I think often people say, oh, well, it comes out of your own practice and what you do in your own space. But I think now it's just, in order to get it out, you've got to get out there and be appreciative of all that you're surrounded by as well. So, yeah.
I mean, then I'm just gonna because I'm a curator, I go to a lot of art fairs. I go to galleries, I go to museums. That showing up part is one, I need to be inspired, because I'm angry a lot, and I resent the fact that I spend most of my time pushing paper and not being able to be in my own studio. It's like I have a burgeoning, want to be a printmaker. These people have been my teachers, but a photographic practice as well. And I very rarely get to be in my own studio. But I show up because showing up is like 90% of it. Because I want to listen to what people are thinking about. I want to see what they're producing. I want to see who's looking at what they're producing. If you're a shy person, People don't believe that I am shy, but I am shy. But I am a very good observer. And I watch nonverbal and I engage people nonverbally a lot. So Chicago is like one of my favorite art cities. If you're in Chicago, there are so many museums and students and free things to do and art in the park, and show up at those places, encourage them to go to all of the free things that they can go to, and places where you don't think that art would be. Like the East Side Growers Collective on the south side of Chicago is run by an artist. And there is art there in the garden and conversations on art making and artist residencies. Apply for artist residencies. Visit other artist studios, ask for a studio visit. I've been trying to get a studio visit with Alison Saar for a while. Maybe this weekend when I'm back in LA. But ask for a studio visit. Do you all want to add anything to those?
I grew up in San Francisco, so for me, my parents would bring me to like these third spaces, which are becoming less and less and less. But there's a place called Galeria de la Raza that has like drag shows and community art events, and also like election nights, just things like that. There's also East Side Arts Alliance in Oakland, African American History Complex, or and culture in the Fillmore. Yeah, things like that. They're always having like events where what I really love about that is like there's like young kids and elders, and that's where you see like, oh, that's a 85-year-old artist that has made it. How can I learn from them? And that's what's helped me a lot in my practice.
Oh, I want to just, speaking of the African American Art and Culture Complex, right now they have a show up by Baba Emory Douglas, who is the former Minister of Culture for the Black Panther Party that was founded in Oakland, California 60 years ago. Emory lives in San Francisco, has lived here the whole time, still making art, still depositing original artwork into the archive at East Side Arts Alliance, by the way. He is giving a workshop. He's giving a printmaking workshop tonight, I think. It's either tonight or tomorrow. It's sometime when I'm gonna miss it. It's either tonight or tomorrow. Please look up the African American Art and Culture Complex in the Fillmore in San Francisco. Please go see that show. Emory is a jewel, one of the most kind, generous artists I have ever met, ever. And he will be there, and I'm actually surprised he's not here, because he's the kind of artist that shows up at other artist talks, and he stands in the back, and he doesn't ever make a big deal about himself, but we all note his love and his generosity for community. And so please go see that show. Was there one more question or thought, reflection anyone wanted? Yes? Please stand up and say your name and where you traveled from.
Hi, I'm Christina, and I work here at the airport as well with the museum. Thank you all so much for being here. It means a lot to see Black women and artists and curators on this stage, in this space especially. I just wanted to ask, kind of going back to that idea of portals, what does it mean for you as artists and as a curator to be this point of intervention in an airport that is historically and can be politically neutral? So just if you could speak to that a little bit more.
There are no neutral spaces, but I like the question. It's like, I don't find this portal to be neutral, or any point of departure and arrival to be neutral, not in the United States, because this is an institution, and it's run by people who run institutions. And so we have a structure in the United States that says racialized capitalism and white supremacy dictate how we move, who moves where, when. And so if you have ICE walking through this airport, like pulling people out of line, attacking them, and people watching it and recording it, there's no neutrality in that. There is fear, there is rage, there's outrage, there's dismay perhaps, but there being opportunities for us to witness ourselves, as I said, even if it's just for a rush moment. It's like, oh, It's like there's a brown woman, there's an indigenous person on the wall, there's a photo of them, or there's some, there's some packs of hair, there's some okra pods. It's like there must be someone here who looked like me or looked like my family that is trying to tell me something, as I travel. I really would like, to hear how you all think about kind of what if neutrality exists, because I don't find it to be an existence in your artwork or how you present your artwork. And I definitely did not look for neutral conversations to be in conversation with Flourish. Yes. yes. Clarifying question. Yes, please. Yes, please.
No, what I meant by neutral is that the airport claims to be a neutral space. And obviously your work, it doesn't abide to that neutrality. And so I just wanted you to speak a little bit more to how you kind of combat that and those claims that this institution can bring as being a neutral space.
And I think what's, kudos to the San Francisco Arts Commission and to the collection here for starting to bake those boundaries, because so often you go to airports and it is like, lots of color, but says nada, and that is intentional. And that is very much about like, we are not committing to anything or anybody. We're just trying to get you from point A to point B without thinking. And so I love that when I come here, and before my piece was here, that, I've been to this museum before. Somehow I find time. I guess I get to the airport extra early, but to be able to kind of break the discomfort of travel and discomfort of having to deal with TSA and the discomfort of knowing that people are being, abducted in these halls, to be able to come and, we were laughing about how it's impossible to find Flourish. And at first I was like, wait a minute, and you said like in the halls or whatnot, and I'm like, wait a minute, why are we being put out in, why the boondocks? But what's beautiful about that is that you can, if you make the decision to see it and you make the pilgrimage to find it, you get there and you're there by yourself. And you can, if you have the time, and I guess you can actually, we kind of tell people just to come from the city and forget about going to the airport, just go see the art. But that it's a quiet space where you can kind of like just sit and think about it and not just be seeing it, at 90 miles per hour trying to get to your destination. So, but yeah, I just really am thankful for the art that's in this collection, that it means a lot to me, and it's my favorite airport. Because, if you're stuck here for a while, if you've got an hour layover like I had this morning, you've got things to see and things to learn from. So thank you all for hosting our work and for being this space. Yeah.
Okay. Quickly, yes, quick, yes. There's a mic behind you. Please use the mic, both of you.
Oh, I'll let you go first.
I was inspired by the question about the young person who, has children and, wants to be creative. And I was thinking of how I felt and reacted at the Afrofuturism exhibit that is, I believe, in Terminal 2, where a Black artist is using AI. And I have issues with AI, but that's the future, and whether artists use it or not. And I was really impressed by that whole exhibit. I've been there like 4 times. I just wanted to ask you what your sense is about this future and this growing pain we have as artists and using the new technology.
The exhibition they're speaking about is the Women of Afrofuturism, which is up in Terminal 2. Terminal 1. Sorry. And it was Ingrid LaFleur, who's an Afrofuturist, was the curatorial consultant on that work, but it features all Bay Area artists, and it does include both AI and augmented reality. So it is gorgeous. And if you go to the desk right there, there's a there's a postcard for it. If there's something that I found out recently, by the way, you can come and peruse the museum that is this airport without getting on an airplane. You just have to email someone. You can ask for a pass. I don't remember, I just call it an art pass. It's like, but you can get an art pass and then they let you through security and you can just look at the artwork. You might have that in other airports, but there was something I just learned recently, but I want to pass the mic so you all can talk about tech quickly.
Well, I didn't, you know, when I'm sorry, I'm being a hog, be a microphone hog, but when I saw that show, I didn't think of it so much about being AI and about tech and that, you know, Black female futurism as, you know, we don't need that. So, you know, even though some of those artists use that, and I think my favorite, and I forget the name of the artist that was made the wearable costume pieces were really extraordinary and just using just like, really, thank you. Yeah. Say that with a microphone.
She lives here.
Oh, they're really.
Afatazi is a San Francisco-based artist. She made the wearable art piece.
Right.
Yeah, it's really dope.
And
Y'all should go see the.
They're good,
when you
yeah.
leave this room, you should get a pass. Ari will figure it out for you, and go see this exhibition because it's just in the next building, right inside, like right in the inside hallway.
Yeah, but you know, I think about Black female futurists, and of course, I can't say those words without thinking of Octavia Butler, and how, you know, she talks about how all of that stuff fails us. And what it comes down to is braiding okra seeds in your hair and, you know, planting and starting over again and, you know, just being there for each other and supporting each other, the love in those novels of just taking care of people. And that's what it comes down to, and that's the ultimate survival. And so I think we can't count on all that stuff. And my husband teaches art and technology, so, you know, I'm being a bit of a traitor there. But yeah, I think that it really comes down to, and I think because we are so, I mean, why we're all kind of like, I don't know what to say, because we are makers. And, you know, I think witnessing us talking, we use our hands when we talk a lot about stuff, just because when we say the words, we imagine the physical formation of that stuff. So I think that was a tough one for us. I shouldn't say that for all of us, but it was for me.
I think it's tough. I think that with AI, a previous mentor told me, she was like, you know, when I was coming up, the new technology was the typewriter, and so I was like, I have to get on board with this thing, or I will be left behind as like a working class Mexican woman. So I had to learn it. And so she was like, you have to learn AI. Like, you have to like be on board with these things because it's gonna happen with or without you. And I was talking to a friend of mine about that, and she was like, you know, these systems are designed to make us feel this way, you know, that we have to contribute to it, that we have to put our input into it. And so, yeah, I think just like what Alison was saying, like bring it back to the making, the materials, the embodiment, and that is what, yeah.
And we also have to understand that AI is not a thing, and that it is the theft of things. It is the theft of all of the work that we've done and that we've made, and it just takes it and regurgitates it into something else and claims it made it. So, you know, I am very suspect of that.
And then there was the other person that had the mic.
Oh, hi. My name is Ken, and I am so grateful to be here, and it's like it's meant to be. And so I love the word dance, and because I like to add creative dance, and I see that in all of you. And I'm very grateful that I'm sober today, that I have some experience being clean and sober. And of all the, at least in my area, being Navajo, I see a lot of people of color that are stunted because of drugs and alcohol. And so being creative individuals, have you cross that, I know you mentioned shrooms, and I love shrooms. I did have that, and had a weird experience on it, but I will not do it again. That was many moons ago. So anyway, what are other ways of being creative to the young folks that you promote without having drugs or alcohol? Have you gone in that area before?
Eve? I want to see.
I would just say that I spent over the years a fair amount of working with young people and children. And if you give young people art supplies, they will make stuff. And I just think it should be a prerequisite for, childhood, period. I just think that, yes, creative outlets for youth, all of that is so important. When I was growing up, they're still there, is Harlem School of the Arts. My mother's like, you're going to study an instrument? We had lots of art supplies, and all these things are just so important. Within the Navajo culture, there's so much beautiful art forms, the jewelry making, all of these, the silversmithing. There are traditions, I'm sure, to tap into. But yes, give every child art supplies. That's all I've got to say. Children don't need a lot of teaching. They sort of know what to do with stuff. I don't know if that's helpful.
Of course. And then the Olumidara and Lava.
I just wanted to, two things. So I'm a deaf doula, and I work with archives, and archives often of BIPOC people. And I'm working on a public art commission right now, and it's deaf doula legacy work. And I'm getting a little emotional talking about it, but it was very challenging to find a good photo of this individual that's supposed to be memorialized. And I had to end up working with AI to restore this photo. And I was like, the eyes are a little weird, it's a little creepy, whatever they're doing with it. We gotta fix it. We gotta go in. But I had to end up collaborating with this technology to talk about visibility and Blackness and to still be able to make this commission happen. And I really didn't want to, and I was very upset about it because of what AI is doing, the data centers, all of that stuff. But I'm also thinking about what are the merits of technology. I love typewriters, I collect them. I'm actually going back to a lot of the technologies that were emergent, but I want a landline phone now. I work with my typewriters, I do all of these different things. And so to kind of hear us talk about AI and me having to be actively in this spot right now at this threshold, but coming in as a activist and for visual restorative justice. What does it mean? Like, what can this technology do for us? I think it just depends on, I'm sorry, I'm so emotional. It's been a lot working on this project, but what does it mean when it gets into the hands of certain individuals? How do we use our tools? And then lastly, I wanted to say there's this Jean-Paul Sartre quote that really broke me when I came upon it a couple of months ago. I believe it goes, there may be more beautiful times, but this time is ours. So yeah, that's it.
And then our last statement from Lava.
Thank you. First, I'd like to thank each and every one of you for your humanness and for connecting with all of us. And thank you, Ashara, for organizing this wonderful event. I wanted to comment on the gentleman that spoke about drugs, alcohol, and follow up on the conversation and statements from Sandler about creativity. I'm a parent and a grandparent, and I have watched my children, who are near adults and adults, and my granddaughters create with abundant materials, with sometimes without many materials, but coming from a household of an artist, there are lots of materials. They're growing up in an environment where art is valued, and we live in a capitalistic society that tells us that what has value has to be profitable. We all have to remember and teach our children that creativity is our birthright. I have a teenage son on the spectrum. He's a musician. He's not interested in becoming a professional musician. He uses music to soothe himself because we live in a very stressful society here in the Bay Area. It's important that we teach our children that creativity belongs to us. It's part of our human expression. And if we embrace it and are taught that it has value that isn't associated with profit, we can soothe and heal ourselves. And so I thank all of you today for your contributions to that healing that we can all experience here.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. There may be a walking caravan to see Flourish. It's possible, so keep the conversations going. Stay in touch with us here at SFO Museum, and thank you to all the panelists, and especially to Ashara for being here today, and to all of you.
Thank you, everyone.